The rise of the factory system during the Industrial Revolution represents one of history's most profound socio-economic transformations. Steam-powered mechanization dismantled centuries-old artisanal traditions, replacing skilled craftspeople with disciplined machine operators and, in doing so, reshaping the very fabric of global trade and social hierarchy. By examining the evidence, from parliamentary testimony to labor records, we can trace how the factory floor became the engine of a new world order, simultaneously generating unprecedented wealth and a friction that permanently redefined modern class structures. Thread the death of the workshop and the birth of the factory. Before the Industrial Revolution, manufacturing was largely organized through what is known as the putting out system, or domestic system, where merchants distributed raw materials to workers who completed tasks in their own homes or small workshops. This decentralized, craft-based approach allowed artisans a degree of control over their labor and pace of work. The factory system, by contrast, centralized production under a single roof, where machines, not human skill, dictated the speed and nature of work. As one contemporary observer noted, the principle of the factory system was to substitute mechanical science for hand skill, and the partition of a process into its essential constituents, for the division of labor among artisans. Workers who once took pride in creating a finished product from start to finish were now reduced to performing a single, repetitive operation, becoming cogs in an industrial machine. This shift was powered by steam. James Watt's improvements to the steam engine meant factories were no longer dependent on water power and could be built anywhere, and they were built big. The new steam-powered machinery was expensive, requiring massive capital investment, which only a new class of wealthy factory owners could provide. The result was a concentrated, disciplined, and often dehumanizing work environment where the factory owner's goal was to maximize output and profit. Crown the emergence of a rigid class hierarchy, the concentration of capital and labor in factories dramatically restructured society along class lines. In a relatively short time, self-sufficient artisans gave way to wage laborers working in the new factory system. By the mid-19th century, a clear tripartite structure had emerged, the working class, proletariat, making up as much as 80% of the population. This class sold its labor for wages. Factory work was often brutal. The infamous Sadler Committee of 1832 heard testimony from former child workers, painting a harrowing picture of life in the mills. The physical toll was immense, and workers' lives were precarious, entirely dependent on the boom and bust cycles of industrial capitalism. The middle class, bourgeoisie, this was the new class of factory owners, managers, merchants, and professionals, doctors, lawyers. Their wealth came not from inherited land, but from industry and commerce. This class championed meritocracy and individual achievement, challenging the old aristocratic order. The aristocracy, the traditional landed elite, saw its power and influence wane relative to the new industrial magnates. While some aristocrats invested in factories or married into industrial wealth, their primacy was no longer assured. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, writing in the Communist Manifesto, provided the most enduring analysis of this new order, arguing that industrial society was polarizing into two great hostile camps, into two great classes directly facing each other, bourgeoisie and proletariat. Globe accelerating global trade through mass production. The social turmoil at home was mirrored by a revolution in global trade. The factory system's ability to mass produce goods on an unprecedented scale created a hunger for raw materials and a desperate need for export markets. Nowhere was this more evident than in the cotton industry, which became the leading sector of the Industrial Revolution. Cotton was a truly global commodity. It could not grow in Europe, so its supply chain stretched across continents, linking European factories to slave plantations in the Americas and colonies in Asia. The technological breakthroughs of the Industrial Revolution gave British manufacturers a colossal advantage. By the 1840s, textiles made up 69% of British exports, with cotton alone accounting for 44%. The nation became the workshop of the world, flooding global markets with cheap, machine-made cloth and dismantling traditional industries everywhere from India to the Americas. This asymmetry, industrialized nations producing finished goods and the rest of the world providing raw materials, created a new, deeply unequal global division of labor. Here socio-economic friction and the struggle for reform the factory system was not accepted passively. The stark inequalities and brutal conditions it created spawned numerous resistance movements and reform campaigns. The Luddites, often remembered as mindless machine breakers, were in fact a highly politicized movement protesting wage reductions and the replacement of skilled labor with unapprenticed workers. Between 1811 and 1816, they sent threatening letters to employers and destroyed the new machinery they held responsible for their plight. Their resistance was a visceral reaction to the dehumanizing logic of industrial capitalism. More organized political opposition came with Chartism, the first mass working-class political movement. In the 1830s and 1840s, Chartists demanded democratic reforms, including universal male suffrage, to give workers a voice in a system that seemed rigged against them. Alongside such radicalism, more incremental change came through legislation. A series of factory acts, beginning in 1819, slowly regulated the brutal conditions in mills, first banning child labor under age 9, then limiting hours for women and young people, and eventually codifying basic safety and sanitation standards. The 10 Hours Act of 1847, for instance, restricted the workday for women and young persons in textile mills to 10 hours. In conclusion, the factory system was a force of creative destruction. It destroyed the artisanal workshop and the old social order, but it created the industrial city and a new global economy. It forged a rigid new class hierarchy, dividing society into capital and labor, bourgeoisie and proletariat. At the same time, the wealth it generated and the global trade it accelerated reshaped the world's economic geography. The resistance it provoked, from Luddite frame-breaking to Chartist petitions to factory acts, demonstrates that the modern class structure and the very idea of workers' rights were forged in the heat of these early industrial struggles. The factory system thus represents a foundational moment, demonstrating that the way a society organizes its work ultimately determines its social fabric and its place in the world.